Okay, here we are, guys. We just saw the new James Bond movie, Skyfall. So we decided to speak to some local Windsor film goers here. We've got Stephen, Carly, and Frank here. And we're going to talk about Skyfall. Okay, let's start with you, Stephen. You are a James Bond fan, I understand.
I am indeed.
Okay, and how does this compare to the previous Bonds?
I may be a little bit excited from just seeing a film, but I think this may be my favorite Bond film.
Ever?
Possibly. I think on many different fronts, it actually hits a lot of the nails on the head. And I may go so bold to say that Daniel Craig has usurped all other Bonds as the quintessential James Bond.
Well, on to Carly here. You are a James Bond fan or no?
Yes, I'd consider myself a James Bond fan. Not the aficionado that Steven is, obviously. But
Okay, no, and so Skyfall going in, what's the thing that hit you the most about this film?
the thing that I found the most interesting about the film is that there wasn't, because it did focus on M so much, is that usually there's one specific Bond girl. And respecting, of course, there's catalogs about these women and how they've changed throughout the years. But I would definitely say that there really wasn't one. Like, there was two separate women who kind of floated in and out. Thankfully, one wasn't murdered, as they usually are after he has sex with them. One was, so we kind of follow the traditional standard. So I do think that that definitely played a huge factor. And now, of course, the role of M has switched back to a man, and then Moneypenny has been reinstated, which is very cheesy, but there were elements of the film that were all really cheesy, that definitely referenced past Bonds, or sort of like the cliches of delivering one's lines.
So now it's official, James Bond and Moneypenny have had sexual relations according to this film.
Oh, yeah. And she's not dead yet, which is great, because she might be the only one. And obviously, M has switched back to... And I am so biased, because I do love Ralph Fiennes, and I think he does a fantastic job. So I was wondering if it would be another male actor, if I'd be more aggressive towards it. But I think Judi Dench has done a wonderful job in the past. And I really do think that her medical condition does affect the complete storyline of Bond. Although, to shake it up, I know that they kind of do want to bring it back to the more traditional idea of James Bond. So that is my take.
Okay. Frank the Tank, what do you think, man? Big Bond fan, right? Skyfall, talk to me.
The fact that I think I've seen every Bond film. Some I've chosen not to watch twice, but I have watched most of them several times. Yeah, this movie is one of my favorites. Daniel Craig. It's hard. I'm sorry, Sean Connery I love Sean Connery's Bond, but Daniel Craig is taking over as my favorite. He shows emotion, and he's also a womanizer. So it's the best of both.
Frank, as a James Bond expert, do you consider this a complete reboot, starting fresh, or is this almost like going back and explaining the previous, because now we have a male M, we have Moneypenny established. So is this now pre-Dr. No? Is this what they're doing, or is it starting fresh?
I think it's starting fresh. I don't think it's pre-Dr. No, and they've changed characters so many times. Even with when Pierce Brosnan took over, the old Q was there, and then halfway through his stint as James Bond, they brought in John Cleese. Yeah. So and now there's a young Q. Yeah, he was in the which that actually kind of pissed me off a little bit. The Q thing. Can you say pissed off?
Yeah.
No, I was just not that I'm bothered about you saying pissed off. I was more bothered about the fact that I think the young Q is very good.
The old Q was funny though. I don't know if there's much. There's a little bit of comedy with this new Q, but not as much potential as the old one, right?
Q's comic relief. Yeah. He's always been comic relief in every James Bond series. Everyone. He's comic relief. He shows them the gadgets, the little gadgets that, he should never use. And, gives them and this Q, it's implied that the other Qs are smart, but they're also very funny. This Q was just high on it. Like, he had such an ego, it kind of just turned me off right away.
I'm going to jump in here and say, I still think Sean Connery's the best. I actually think Pierce Brosnan might be my second favorite. And Daniel Craig, I like Daniel Craig's 3 Bond movies, but I still don't see him as James Bond. I see him as James Blonde. And he's too buff, he's too tough, he's not suave enough, he just doesn't have the Bond feel for me. It'll always be Connery for me. and I'm happy with. I'm glad that I like Judi Dench as M, and it's a bit confusing because she was M for Pierce Brosnan. Again, it goes back to, is this a reboot? Is this a reimagining? It's a little bit confusing.
When you question that kind of concept, I think with Bond we have to sort of think about, when you look back at the way people used to tell stories, and stories evolve and stories change, and in the way that, The Simpsons never grow older, Bond never grows older. Bond is just retold via different stories repeatedly. Bond evolves with the times, but he's always slightly timeless. And I think, thinking about time in Bond world as linear is wrong. I think we need to look at all Bond films as being a sort of suspended time, and everything exists in this idealized version of the world.
Sure. Well, I've probably read too many comic books, and comic book fans are too obsessed with continuity, so let's not even worry about that. This story was unpredictable. I found, especially about halfway through, it almost reminded me of The Dark Knight, where the bad guy's captured, but yet he's still manipulating things from behind the scenes. Javier Bardem is a great villain. Again, unpredictable dialogue, unpredictable acting, and the scenes with him and Bond together were riveting. I thought it was great. So are you guys is this something you think you're going to go back and want to watch again?
I will definitely probably watch it several times. There's always, as the past, Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, I've watched several times. There's always little new things that you notice. Sure. And everything in the film, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful film. The scenery. The
cinematography was great in this film.
Yeah, and it's just, you want to watch it over and over again. And I don't fall asleep to them when I watch them over and over again.
Carly, you going to watch this movie again, or you going to fall asleep?
I'll definitely watch it again. The last criticism I think that we had, especially because you just mentioned Javier Bardem as the lead villain, is the idea that they kind of added these homosexual tendencies on the first scene in which him and Bond interact. Sure. And I thought that was that's kind of a controversy in itself, is the idea that not only he's completely insane and he's a bit mad and he's brilliant, but that they kind of add that sort of a crazy homosexual vibe to him. And I can see that being problematic in a lot of perhaps critical reviews of the film and amongst the general public as well. And it's kind of a theme that I think people have also seen in other varieties of film and genres. So that's really the only potentially toxic criticism.
The only real gay character in a Bond film so far is someone who swallowed cyanide. You're saying that's the problem?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he is actually physically sick and has been seriously affected by chemicals. So
I do want to point out though that when Javier Bardem was hitting on Bond, he said something about being his first time, and Bond said, "How do you know this is my first time?" That opened my eyes, Steven.
Yeah, I genuinely, I kind of like that. It's playing into a nice, sort of contemporary idea of he is questioning whether somebody's sexuality would be called into play initially, and that's kind of almost a nice little commentary on what's going on around the world as far as sexual gender and sexual politics. And as far as gender politics, I think misogyny was dialed back the most in any Bond film I've ever seen, and there was the most genuine strong female characters in this film, where they weren't just being strong, they weren't kicking the shit out of somebody while wearing a bikini. They were strong women of different ages, which was nice. M shows off as being not only vulnerable but also very strong, I think, for the first time. Not just strong behind a desk, but strong in reality, in the field, as it were. And who we find out is Eve Moneypenny is, spoiler alert again, is also very strong and still really hot. And yeah, she's a woman of color.
She's a woman of color, which is...
And she was a field agent, which, you know what, I would have never expected Moneypenny to be a field agent before she was a desk, M's clerk.
And as I understand, the next Bond film will be dealing with her trying to prove that she was born in England. I don't know.
Does she have to present her college records and to a Donald Trump in this next film?
I believe that's what I hear.
Going back to that, the homosexual part of it, when you said Daniel Craig, I think it was more a play on pop culture, because remember that before, when Daniel Craig took over Bond, there was a whole thing about him being gay.
You're right.
I didn't know that.
I think, yeah, there was a huge scandal. They were saying Daniel Craig's gay. How could a gay man be be James Bond, and like they were trying to say he was gay, and I'm not even sure if he is or not, but I think they might have threw that in there
As a little in joke about
a
him.
little in joke to like say, haha.
He is married to a woman. The actor is married to Rachel Weisz, I
Well,
believe,
then-
and they have a family.
Yeah, then
She might be a
yeah.
great beard, but I mean,
You're a pretty good beard. I mean, what?
Off the rails. Okay, that about wraps up our review of James Bond Skyfall. I think we all agree it's a good film. Highly recommended, everybody.
Yeah, I recommend it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Okay, go and see it, guys. Skyfall.